Hi there, Dr. Gary here on the road. We sell dental practices nationwide. We are dental practice brokers. I was a dentist for 25 years, now doing dental brokerage for the last 16 years. Today's topic is discussion of employment contract for the seller of a dental office. Let's get into that. As you know, we are now doing the dental practice broker for 16 years in 25 states. We have 10 employees, including 2 CPA accountants. We're available to you 363 days a year. We take off Christmas and Easter. Please give us a call. 201-663-0935. Website, dentalpracticeguide.com or Nationwide Dental Practice Brokers. Just give us a ring. We'll be happy to chat with you. Now, also, everything you're about to hear is for entertainment purposes. It's not legal or business advice. So give us a ring. We'll be happy to chat with you. And if you just want some information, we can give you a quickie summary analysis of the value of practice, etc. So call us and we can tell you about that. Now, if you have a larger practice, call us. Over $1 million, 4 or 5 operatories, willing to stay on 3 to 5 years. Give us a ring on that, because you may be a DSO candidate and we can help you with that. Okay? And now, it is, at this time, they've been paying our commission. So often there's no commission for you. So it may be something you want to jump on right away. Now, also, if we are representing you and the practice is over selling, final sale price over $1 million, successful closing, and we're representing you, we will reimburse your legal fees upon successful closing. So give me a call about that. We've done that quite a bit. Okay? Today's topic is the employment contract for the seller of a dental practice. This is an important issue to be discussed. You're going to be working for the buyer, essentially as an associate. Now remember, the buyer and the hygienist have to produce at least 70% of the work because they have a big note to pay, a big debt to pay off. So it's something to be aware of. That debt is, lofty. Plus they're paying rent, lease, staff salaries. So there's only so much extra compensation they can give to you. As far as, I know you want to do all the crowns, and probably they're going to be doing all the crowns and all the expensive work, and you've got to understand that. But they are looking for an associate, asking you to stay on. Sometimes shorter, sometimes longer, depending on the length of time, could affect the contract negotiations. What is your compensation going to be? Well, if you're a GP, it's going to be 30 to 35%. If you're a specialist, it's going to be 40% or higher, okay? They only have so much margin. Generally, with a GP, it can't go above 35% because it digs into their profit margin. And for a specialist, 40, 45%, sometimes 50, but between that 40 to 50 range, closer to 40%. Now, as malpractice, let's go over this. As far as malpractice goes, if it's a specialist and a high producer, and the specialist is only working at your office and no other offices, unless they do some hospital work, pretty much it's going to be, you're going to pay the whole malpractice or at least half of it. That's a negotiation. Because if they're working somewhere else, I don't think you should have to pay half. Hospital is different. Hospital is just an on-call type thing. And some of that work is pro bono, because it's accidents and they're doing a write-off on it. So so that percentage is usually on collections. Some, doctors have asked me to get paid on salary, but that doesn't work out for either party. It probably works out better for the buyer of the dental practice, but it's pretty much paid on collections. And if your office that you're selling to the buyers on top of their collections, well, it shouldn't be a problem. And you should be engaged. The buyer kind of wants you engaged in the collection process. In other words, you don't insert a crown if you have not collected the money yet. It's only fair. Isn't it fair that the buyer, the seller, who's now the employee associate, is involved in the financial aspect of it, right? If the buyer, if the patient can't afford it, what are you starting to work for? Well, don't even start. So that's something to be aware of. Now, the other aspects of it, what about all your professional fees, continuing education, drug license, certifications, and so forth? Generally, for specialists, that should be put into one fund. That is, you're going to provide money for continuing education, specialty licensing, drug license, generally in one fund. And I would say most of that really should be paid by the employer, to be negotiated, of course. It depends what the organization they belong to. Is it essential for the operation of the office? The biggest thing is the malpractice. You're either paying half as a buyer, employer, or the full thing. With usually with specialists, you're paying close to full, which could be $25,000 or higher with an oral surgeon, or it could be with depending on what the situation is, what the negotiation. When you do negotiation for employment contract, although it's separate from, if there's real estate, it's separate from the real estate, it's separate from the dental contract. At the same time, you want to globally look at everything, all issues at the same time, but each one is separate from the other. But certainly you want to look at everything and try to get a game plan of where you're at with everything. So the next step is supplies. If there's a lab fee, and it's a GP office, generally they take the fee. For example, if you're charging $1,500 for a crown and the lab fee is $200, you take the $200 out of the $1,500 and the associate gets paid on the $1,300 on collections. I think production and collections is the fairest way to pay everybody. But you got to take that lab fee out. If it's a cost of material, expensive cost, like an implant, which is essentially like a lab, you take that out of the fee of the patient. So it's $1,500 is the fee. You take the $200 out for the cost of the implant. Then it's the associate gets paid their percentage on the remaining $1,300. $1,500 minus $200 lab or $200 implant, $1,500. Okay, that's fair to everybody, and that's something that you should think about. All right. As far as health benefits, 401k, whatever the doctor had before, I think it's fair that is the seller. You should really keep it the same. And you have to keep the staff salaries the same. You can't start cutting staff salaries or reducing staff benefits. Forget it. Don't even go there. Don't think about it. Don't go there. You cannot do that. You'll lose staff. In today's market, you can't afford to lose staff because they know the patients. They make the patient feel comfortable. Patients look forward to seeing them. Obviously, it's a little different on a specialty practice, but still, they come back and forth a couple of times. Those staff members, the patients, even if it's a specialty thing. So they want to see familiar faces. You want to maintain continuity of care, and that's the reason you do that. So the doctor, who's now the seller, is now becoming an employee. I'd keep things pretty much the same as they had before. 401k, benefit package, you got to keep that all the same. Don't screw around with that. All right, that's important. Be aware of that. Now, generally, unless it's now DSO buying a practice is a different story. They're a little more lucrative and free with the benefits. They're profit sharing right away, and they have all kinds of, and full health and full medical and full malpractice, full. So, but they're a little different, So just to be aware of that. They have a few more bucks to spend, so that it's a bit more lucrative. So remember that there is a difference if a DSO is buying it or a private buyer. All right. DSO has more money to spend. Now, continuing. There's other aspects of it. What about vacation time? Well, how much vacation were you taking before? Was it you really weren't getting compensated before? I'm saying as a specialist or as a GP, were you getting compensated by your company or whatever it was? But how much paid time off do you need? Like, how many weeks off did you have each year? Most sellers want to maintain the same amount of time off. All right, and part of it's going to be paid, and part of it's going to be they get no reimbursement for it. That's a negotiation. That's something that has to be discussed, gone over multiple times, etc. The next topic, what about holding money back at closing? In case the seller doesn't fulfill their obligation to work. That doesn't really work with private buyers. It works maybe with a DSO. I would say private. I would, leave everything as a negotiation, but be aware of what a DSO is and what a private buyer is as far as benefits, holdbacks. But DSO does hold back some money. Private buyer rarely does. It's rare with a private buyer to withhold funds, put money in escrow. It just doesn't happen. A majority of the time, every deal is different. All right? You want to work together. First of all, you're selling the practice. At the same time, you're becoming an employee as a seller. There has to be some give and take. All right? Remember that. These are just some points about the employment contract. It's important. But when you're selling a dental office, remember, it's a APA dental contract. It is a real estate contract. It is an employment contract. There's 3 different contracts. That's why you need a dental attorney, not your friend or your friend Tony, who was an attorney, but is only doing real estate. Now he does it on the side, and he's semi-retired. You want a guy that's on this game virtually every day. You want a well-seasoned dental attorney. What's a very well-seasoned? Somebody that did like 150 closings last year. That is super well-seasoned. Okay? I mean super well-seasoned. So just bear that in mind. Anyway, some points for you. Thank you for listening. Hit the subscribe button so you're informed of all our different videos. I think we're at 1,468, somewhere around there. Please listen to get some hot tips.